What's up, y'all? It's P.H.D for a brand new series called Fan Note, and today you're repping The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. So the story starts out with a wedding with Jurgis and Ona, the two main characters of the story, and everything else from there goes downhill. Um, shortly after that, like, there were three people that had a job. Jurgis, who worked at Packingtown, and then there was Ona and Marija, who worked. And Ona and Marija ended up losing their job. So then Jurgis found out that Ona had been abused sexually and otherwise by her boss, Phil Connor. Then when Jurgis found out about Phil Connor sexually abusing Ona, he went all Ray Rice and tried to beat up that fool. And then he started to go a little bit of Jeffrey Dahmer and ate like half his face. It's pretty messed up. So shortly after Jurgis got out of the slammer, he went and found out that his home that he had bought was no longer his home. They actually they repainted it and called it brand new. You'll find out the significance of that in this analysis. But then he found out where Ona and little Antinous and his entire family was. And Ona, who before Jurgis went to jail was in pretty rough shape. So then Ona ended up dying due to childbirth complications. So did that child. And then Jurgis ended up having to go out and try and drink his sorrows away with the little amount of money he had. And when you think that stuff couldn't get any worse for Jurgis, turns out shortly after that, his own kid got drowned. So then after that, Jurgis had to try to go from job to job to job. That didn't really work out, and then he ended up having to go to beggar, and then when he was a beggar, he ended up meeting this old player named Freddie Jones, who was related to the owner of Packingtown, which was where Jurgis got his first job. So then, after hanging out with this G named Freddie, Freddie ended up giving Jurgis $100 and going, "Here you go, use that for a cab, and you can pocket the change." Jurgis, excited about it, he didn't have to pay for the cab, in fact, so he ended up going to a bar. And then he was like, "Yo, can you give me some change, man?" And then the bartender was like, "Yeah, I can do that." And then, so Jurgis gave the bartender his $100 bill for a $5 or a 5-cent drink, and then the bartender just gave him 95 cents, and Jurgis was like, "Yo, where's my other $99, yo?" And the bartender was like, "What you talking about? You gave me a 1. And then Jurgis ended up getting into a fight with this guy, and it ended up getting caught by the 5-0 and sent back to jail. So, back in jail, Jurgis met up with Jack Duane again, his cellmate from the other times Jurgis was in jail. And then Jack Duane ended up hooking up Jurgis with a job, which ended up paying well. And then, so for a while, Jurgis, even though he was on a downside, he was starting to be up on the upswing again. And then he saw Phil Connor again and tried to finish him. He didn't finish him, but he still proceeded to beat the living daylights out of him and nearly killed him. But then he ended up going to jail again, and then he tried to ask his buddies from work, "Hey, can you hook me up with bail?" And then they're like, "Well, what happened?" He was like, "I beat up on Phil Connor," and they're like, "Bro, you can't do that." And then Jurgis ended up he had $300 in his pocket, or in his bank account, and the bail got reduced from $500 to $300, and then Jurgis was then left with no job, no money. So Jurgis, living in the slums, uh, struggling to find a place to eat or sleep and live and stuff. He ended up running into Ona's cousin, Marija, who used to live with with Jurgis and Ona at one point. Found out that she was supporting the only other person left that was still alive, Elizabeth, in the family. She's she's paying the bills because she is a prostitute, and she cannot get out of this field because the place that she's at was like, yo, you can't really leave here because you have all this debt and stuff, so you're gonna have to keep working. So then, Jurgis ended up going to this meeting that promoted socialism, and then he really liked what he heard about the socialism meeting. And then when he finally met Elizabeth again, he he was telling her all about socialism, and she's like, I support that too. So, what made this book unique was the plot, because most times when you got the chapter set out, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, through whatever in chronological order. But here in this story, chapter 1 is like where like chapter 6 is supposed to be. So like the setup is like, and if you were going based on chronological order, it'd be about chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, 7, whatever. This was done because if you follow like the emotions of the plot, like this is what it would normally be. Like here's the wedding and then everything's downhill. Here's the wedding with the setup that Sinclair uses and the rest of the book. Making you wonder each and every time you read like a chapter or something, you're like, gosh, has Jurgis hit rock bottom yet? So, with the story being released, Upton Sinclair is considered a muckraker, which, according to the Merriam Webster Dictionary that I found online, muckraker is a noun, and the definition of muckraker is to search out and publicly expose real or apparent misconduct of a prominent individual or business. Now, this is important because Upton Sinclair worked in a meat factory just so he can have like legitimate stuff to put in the jungle, just so it wasn't no fluff or no trash. This was legit. Which then shortly after, President Roosevelt passed the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Drug and Food Act of 1906, which assures you to know that whenever you eat some of this here hamburger, you don't have to worry, oh my god, am I gonna die if I eat this? I don't know. So the main thing Sinclair is trying to preach up in here is he's just trying to preach about socialism, which is why this book is banned, because he talks about the corruption of capitalism in America, where one man has power, and that man, throughout most of the story, was a corrupt Democratic boss of Packingtown named Mike Scully. Now here's a little piece from page 278. It says, it, it was Scully who owned the brickyards and the dump and the ice pond. Though Jurgis did not know it, it was Scully who was to blame for the unpaved street which Jurgis's child had been drowned. It was Scully who had put into the office, where was that? Who ended up sending Jurgis to jail. Um, it was Scully who was the principal stockholder in the company, which sold him to the ramshackle treatment and then robbed him of it. But Jurgis knew none of these things. So earlier I mentioned the significance of $300 earlier in the summary of the story. The significance of $300, it's not ironic because the sum of $300 came up multiple times in the story as relating to Jurgis and the family. At the very beginning, the wedding for Jurgis and Ona was $300. Let's see, first time Jurgis went to jail, $300 bail, and then when Jurgis later on in the story went to jail, 300 the fine was talked down to $300 because $300 was all that he had in his bank account, and that was the significance of $300. So that was just basically saying that one man has all this power and the rest of the people don't even know it. Y'all, thank you all for watching this, and hit that subscribe button, or don't. See you later.